I never imagined I'd become the villain in my own family. Never thought I'd be the one everyone pointed at, whispering accusations behind my back. But that's exactly what happened. And if I'm being honest, my brother started it. He accused me of stealing, framed me in front of our entire family, and made sure I was cast out like some kind of criminal. So, I did what anyone would do in my position. I took everything from him in return. To truly understand how this all went down, I have to go back to the beginning. You see, my brother Mark had always been the golden child. He was 5 years older than me, always a step ahead, always perfect in everyone's eyes. I, on the other hand, was the younger, less impressive sibling. I wasn't a slacker by any means. I had a steady job, a decent apartment, and a quiet life. But compared to Mark's sprawling success, I looked like I wasn't trying hard enough. Mark had built a small empire for himself. By the time he was 30, he owned a multi-million-dollar business, married a beautiful woman named Olivia, and lived in a house that resembled something out of a real estate commercial. Glossy marble floors, wide windows, sleek cars parked in the driveway. Everything about his life screamed wealth, privilege, and success. And to be clear, I was happy for him. I had no reason to be jealous. Or, at least, I thought I didn't. The betrayal, it was a Sunday afternoon when it all started to unravel. My family and I were gathered at my parents' house for our usual monthly lunch. It was a casual thing. Pasta, salad, bread, the kind of meal my mom loved preparing for us. We were sitting around the table, laughing about something trivial when Mark suddenly stood up. His face was red and I could see the veins in his neck bulging. I thought he was about to have a heart attack. "Jake," he said, staring at me with fury, "I know what you did." The room went quiet. My father stopped mid-chew, my mother set her glass down, and Olivia, who had been chatting with my mom, went pale. "What are you talking about?" I asked, genuinely confused. "You stole from me," Mark spat as if the words were poison on his tongue. I blinked, not fully understanding what he meant. "Stole from you? What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me. You took $50,000 from my business accounts. The money was transferred into your account last week." I laughed at first. It had to be a joke. But the look on his face wasn't joking at all. He pulled out a stack of papers from his jacket pocket and threw them on the table. I picked them up, glancing at them. Bank statements, wire transfers. The money had been moved into an account under my name, with my account number listed clearly on the documents. My heart dropped into my stomach. "Wait, this is a mistake," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't take any money from you. I don't even have access to your business accounts." Mark glared at me, his eyes full of hatred. "Don't lie to me. I've already talked to my bank and they confirmed everything. I trusted you, and this is how you repay me? You steal from your own brother?" My mother gasped, and my father sat there stone-faced. Olivia, always calm and composed, looked like she was about to cry. "I swear I didn't do this," I said, feeling the walls closing in on me. "This has to be some kind of mistake. Someone must have hacked into the account or forged something. I don't know how this happened, but I didn't steal anything from you." "No one else had access to this account," Mark said, his voice cold and final. "Only you." The entire room felt like it was suffocating me. I looked around, hoping someone would speak up in my defense, but no one did. My parents just sat there, watching the two of us like spectators at a car crash, unsure whether to intervene or not. Olivia didn't even look at me. "Jake," my father finally said, his voice filled with disappointment. "How could you do this? We raised you better than this." "I didn't do it," I shouted, my hands trembling as I tried to make sense of what was happening. I would never steal from Mark or from anyone. I don't know how this happened, but I'm telling the truth. But it didn't matter. They had already made up their minds. The evidence was right there. And even though I knew it wasn't true, even though I knew I'd been framed, no one believed me. I was guilty in their eyes because the proof said I was. That day, my family turned their backs on me. I was cast out as the thief, the black sheep, the shame of the family, and I had no idea why my brother had done it, why he had gone to such lengths to ruin me. Hear the fallout after the accusation, everything in my life fell apart. My parents stopped inviting me to family events. My friends, who heard about what happened, began to distance themselves. And worst of all, I lost my job. Word of the accusation had gotten around, and my boss didn't want to deal with the potential scandal. I was alone, broke, and devastated. For weeks, I tried to figure out what had happened. I combed through my bank accounts, my email, my social media, everything, trying to find some clue that would prove my innocence. But no matter how hard I searched, I couldn't find anything that would clear my name. It was as if Mark had perfectly orchestrated the entire thing, making sure that there was no way for me to fight back. But I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to let him destroy my life without a fight. And so, I started planning my revenge. The plan. At first, I didn't know how to take him down. Mark was smart. He had a team of lawyers, accountants, and business experts who made sure his every move was above board. But no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. And I was determined to find Mark's. I spent the next year investigating him. I used fake identities to reach out to people who had worked with him, former employees, business partners, anyone who might have a grudge or a story to tell. I didn't expect much, Mark was careful, and I assumed most people would be loyal to him. But eventually, I hit gold. It started with a former employee named Greg who had worked with Mark in the early days of his company. Greg was bitter. He'd been fired after a disagreement, and he had a lot to say about Mark's business practices. "He's a snake," Greg told me over drinks one night. "Screwed me over more than once, but he covers his tracks too well. You won't find much on the surface, but dig deep enough, and you'll see just how dirty he plays." That was the first crack in Mark's armor. I kept digging, following leads Greg gave me, and soon I uncovered a web of corruption that Mark had spun over the years. It wasn't just a few bad deals. Mark had been laundering money, bribing officials, and even blackmailing competitors to keep his business afloat. His entire empire was built on lies and crime. The more I uncovered, the angrier I became. Mark hadn't just framed me for stealing. He had destroyed countless lives in his climb to the top. And I knew exactly how I was going to take him down. The execution, I spent the next few months gathering evidence. I copied emails, bank records, and confidential documents that linked Mark to everything from illegal business deals to tax fraud. It was a slow process, but I was patient. I wanted to make sure I had enough to not only ruin him, but also ensure he couldn't bounce back from it. Once I had everything I needed, I didn't go to the police. I didn't want Mark to be quietly arrested and tried in court. No, that would be too simple. I wanted to destroy his life the way he had destroyed mine. So, I leaked everything. I sent anonymous tips to journalists, uploaded documents to public forums, and sent incriminating emails to Mark's business partners and clients. Within days, the story was all over the news. Business tycoon Mark Donovan accused of corruption and fraud. His company's stock plummeted, investors pulled out, and clients canceled contracts. His empire crumbled piece by piece. But I wasn't done. I had one more card to play. Mark's wife, Olivia, had always been a loyal, supportive partner. She stood by him through everything, and I knew that if she left him, it would be the final blow. So, I sent her a package. Inside were photographs, emails, and text messages that proved Mark had been cheating on her for years. He'd had multiple affairs, including one with her best friend. I didn't know if she would believe it, but she did. The final blow, Olivia left Mark within a week of receiving the package. She filed for divorce, took half of everything he had left, and cut all ties with him. Mark was left with nothing. No wife, no business, no reputation. And me? I got my life back. But the funny thing is, once I had my revenge, once I had destroyed Mark the way he had destroyed me, I didn't feel satisfied. I thought I would feel victorious, like I had won. But all I felt was emptiness. I had become just as ruthless as Mark, and in the process, I had lost a part of myself. But there was no going back now. I had crossed a line, and I could never undo what I had done. And maybe, deep down, I didn't want to. The aftermath. Months passed after I dismantled Mark's life. At first, I watched from the sidelines, tracking every headline, every news article detailing the ongoing fallout of his empire. His face was plastered on every business site, every scandal magazine. Disgraced entrepreneur Mark Donovan declares bankruptcy. Former tycoon faces multiple lawsuits. It was everything I had planned. Mark reduced to a joke, a cautionary tale of hubris and corruption, but watching it unfold wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. I had imagined Mark groveling, broken beyond repair. Instead, he seemed oddly silent, like he'd disappeared into thin air. It was unsettling, the calm before a storm, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Then one night, I got a call. I hadn't spoken to Olivia since she left him, and hearing her voice made my stomach churn. She was sharp, direct, always composed, but there was an edge to her voice I hadn't heard before. "Jake," she said, her voice cold. "I know it was you." I froze. I hadn't been careless. There was no trail leading back to me. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, my heart pounding. "Cut the act," she snapped. "You destroyed him. You sent those documents. The affairs, the fraud. You ruined his life. And you know what? He deserved it." There was silence on the line, and I could hear her breathing, slow and steady. I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure what to say. "But here's the thing," she continued. "Mark is dangerous when he's cornered. You think you've won, but trust me, he's not finished. Not by a long shot." A chill ran down my spine. "He's going to come for you, Jake. He always does." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let him try." Olivia laughed, but it wasn't a warm sound. It was bitter, cold, the sound of someone who had been through hell and knew what was coming. "Good luck," she said, and then the line went dead. The silence that followed felt louder than her words. From that moment on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was closing in on me. I had torn my brother's life apart, taken everything from him, but there was one thing I hadn't considered: how far he was willing to go to get it back. The results. The lawsuits started trickling in first. Claims of defamation, breach of confidentiality. It didn't matter that I had been careful. Mark had powerful friends, the kind who could twist the law in his favor. My savings dwindled fast as I fought off case after case, lawyer after lawyer. Every battle drained me, financially and emotionally. Then came the personal attacks. My landlord suddenly decided to evict me for violating some obscure clause in my lease. Friends stopped returning my calls. Job offers evaporated before I could even sign the paperwork. It was as if I was being systematically erased, just like I had done to Mark. I knew it was him. He was pulling the strings from behind the scenes, slowly dismantling my life the way I had dismantled his. And unlike me, Mark had the resources to make sure I wouldn't bounce back. One night, as I sat in my half-empty apartment, I realized what Olivia had meant. Mark wasn't done. He would never be done. He didn't care about rebuilding his life. He only cared about one thing: ruining mine. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I'd won the battle, but the war wasn't over. I had started something I couldn't finish, and no matter how far I ran, Mark would never stop hunting me down until I was just as broken, just as ruined as he was. Because in the end, this wasn't just revenge anymore. It was survival.